There are a lot of wireless microphones out there, so much so that it's hard to determine which one's the best to buy. Well, I picked up a couple of the more popular budget wireless mics out there, so today I'm gonna put them head to the test to determine which is best, so that you don't have to. Let's get into it. All right, so here's how this video is gonna go. I'll put each microphone head to head in the same tests. I have a relatively sound-treated room here, and I created a little makeshift sound booth with some sound panels as well. I tested the microphones in 4 categories: loudness, noise, clarity, and features/accessories. Each will be given a rating out of 5 stars to help us to determine which is the winner. At the risk of ruining this video, I'll say that most of these are pretty good, but I do think that there is one in particular that you should probably avoid. I'll also note that we are testing budget options, so they're pretty much all around that $150 price point. Let's meet the contestants. So we have the DJI Mic Mini, the Rode Wireless Micro, and the Hollyland Lark M2S. Now, I understand that there are a lot of other mic options out there. The reason I've gone with these 3 is that they are from reputable brands that make really good products, rather than just taking that cheap, junky stuff that you can find on Amazon. I'm also going to include the DJI Mic 2 in the testing a little bit to serve as a benchmark, just keeping in mind that that one is more than twice the price of the others. To first measure loudness, we would ideally set the gain of each mic to 0 decibels. Each mic does things a little bit differently, so I've opted to use their middle setting. On the DJI, this is 0 decibels. On the Rode, it's called medium, and on the Hollyland, it's called 2 out of 1, 2, or 3. With the gain set, I repeated the same lines with the microphones pinned to the exact same position on my shirt, which allows for consistency across all the microphones, and then we can measure the true peak and loudness using the ITU 1770 loudness standard. After running this test, the DJI Mic Mini and the Hollyland Lark M2S came in at the loudest at -17.9 LUFS and -18.3 LUFS respectively. And then the Rode Wireless Micro is all the way down at -30.5 LUFS. For reference, the DJI Mic 2 was pretty much in line with the others at -19.2 LUFS. Now, it's a little difficult to give a simple best to worst rating for this because it's a little bit dependent on your particular needs, but I've opted for giving the higher loudness the higher rating because it makes the microphone a little bit more versatile. But if you anticipate being in a louder environment, having something like the Rode Wireless Micro can be good to help eliminate some of that potential background noise. Speaking of noise, to measure noise, I wanted to run 2 tests. The first was to analyze the frequencies themselves and help determine where any of that background noise is leaking in. And then the second was just to measure the noise peak and determine how loud the noise is. The DJI Mic Mini has a little bit more noise coming from the lower frequencies, but it also has the lowest overall noise peak, which is also basically in line with the Rode Wireless Micro. The Hollyland had the highest noise peak, but honestly, it still controlled the noise level quite well. For a reference point, the DJI Mic 2 does handle noise the best, with a noise peak in line with the DJI Mic Mini, but like the Mic Mini, there's some of that peaking in the very, very lowest of frequencies around like 20 hertz. So not something you'd likely notice much. And it is really easy to get rid of with a low cut, which we'll talk about in a second. This actually brings us nicely to signal to noise ratio. For those that don't know what signal to noise ratio is, imagine you're at a party and you're trying to talk to a friend. That's the signal. But the music is blasting and people are laughing and chatting all around you. That's the noise. If the music is super loud and everyone's shouting, you can barely hear your friend's voice. That means you have a low signal to noise ratio. You're mostly just getting the noise. But if the music is softer and the crowd noise dies down, then your friend's voice becomes a lot clearer. That's a high signal to noise ratio. You can finally understand them telling you why Saquon Barkley should be the MVP this year. For these mics, the signal is your voice that you're trying to record, and then the noise is any room tone or hissing or a car passing by, any unwanted noise around you. At the top of the rankings is the DJI Mic Mini. By having that low noise floor and still having the highest loudest rating, we end up with a really impressive signal to noise ratio. The signal to noise ratio on both the Rode and the Hollyland are lower, but still quite respectable. And again, as just a benchmark, the SNR of the DJI Mic 2 is 43.3 decibels. So it is interesting to note that the DJI Mic Mini actually performs slightly better than the more expensive DJI Mic 2. All right, if you're interested in getting one of these mics, then you obviously understand the importance of high quality or good audio. which means you also likely understand the importance of having good music for your videos. Maybe you're doing a talking head video like this, or you're doing a vlog using this fancy new mic that you have. Well, you don't want something like the vocals in a song coming in and muddying it up, which is why I like to use stems in a song. If you're not familiar with stems, it's basically allowing you to pick and choose which parts or instruments of the song you want to use. So like you could just isolate just the drums or just the lead guitar, for example, or just those three things. Move away from the vocals, for example. Well, Artlist recently added the ability to download stems from their royalty-free music. So you can now find your favorite track and then mix and match it to your heart's content. I personally really like taking just a few elements like the bass and the drums and like maybe one other thing and using that as my background audio, which is what I've been doing throughout this video. Artlist has a ton of great music, sound effects, stock footage, and even LUTs now to color grade your videos. It's honestly my go-to solution for all things video creation. So check out the link in the description to get 2 free months off of Artlist when you sign up for a year's subscription, and a huge thank you once again to Artlist for sponsoring today's video. Okay, so now that your music is on point, let's discuss each microphone's clarity. This is far and away the most subjective of the categories because how good a microphone sounds is open to your own personal taste. Now, in my opinion, the best audio comes from the Hollyland Lark M2S. It's generally pretty balanced throughout the range, and it might have a little bit of pinginess and reverb to it, but all in all, when we consider that it's we're grading on a curve here for it being a budget mic, I think it does sound pretty nice. My second favorite, very close favorite, is the DJI Mic Mini, which honestly, it is really close to the Hollyland, but it has a little bit less depth on the lower end of the frequency range. Bringing up the rear, we have the Rode Wireless Micro. It's missing a really good bit on that low end, and it makes the audio sound just a bit hollow and lacking of that depth. But again, these are just my ratings, so let's play them all back to back, and I'll throw in the DJI Mic 2 as well, and you can let me know in the comments which you think is your favorite. The small pup, not a hole in the sock. The small pup, not a hole in the sock. The small pup, not a hole in the sock. The small pup, not a hole in the sock. Now, despite many of these sounding pretty similar, the features and accessories of each are worth considering because I think it's possible that it will sway your decision pretty considerably. Let's start with the Rode Wireless Micro. It's the easiest to cover because it's designed to be the most plug-and-play wireless microphone, and it honestly does a really good job of holding up that end of the bargain, but it does so at a couple of costs. With the Rode, you get the charging case, 2 transmitters, and the receiver. It also comes with a charging cable and windscreens. You just plug the receiver into your phone and you literally are ready to go. And then it works with any app that can make use of the microphone function. So that includes like your normal camera app or social media apps, whatever you want. The charging case is also super compact. It's basically like the size of an AirPods Pro case. The battery life is rated for 7 hours on just the mics themselves, and then an additional up to 18 hours when you use the charging case. It also has what they call intelligent gain assist, but you don't really have any ability to adjust any of the parameters. So you can't really tell what it's doing. Like if you turn your head away from the mic, it's a little bit hard to tell that it's actually doing the adjustment. That's kind of the thing that I would like it to do the most. There's an app to adjust the settings, but everything is very limited. No noise canceling, no safety tracks, just a very simple solution. It also does come with windscreens, but they don't fit into the case. So if you want to bring those, I guess you just have to stick them in your pocket, which is just asking for them to get lost. I think the biggest drawback, however, is that this is a mobile-only solution. The receiver just has it's just a small bar with either a USB-C or Lightning port, which, don't get me wrong, super sleek. It fits on the phone nicely, but that means 2 things. 1, you can't use it with your camera or anything that requires a 3.5mm jack. And 2, you have to choose between either a Lightning port or a USB-C port. You can't pick both. You have to like buy those things separately. But if you're a mobile-only creator, you just want something that's like super easy to use and you just have this with you at all times, like I do think this is a good option for that specific use case. Like it has a really great design, but being so limited makes it hard to give it more than 3 out of 5. Then you have the DJI Mic Mini, which is packed full of features. First, the battery life is 10.5 hours or up to 48 when using the charging case. It also has an auto off feature where it detects the device that it's connected to and then it will turn off when you turn off that device. Also, popping the mics and the receiver into the case for just 5 minutes gets you an extra hour of use, which is great in a pinch. Unlike the Rode, the DJI Mic Mini has controls on the units themselves. You have a gain wheel with 5 settings in 6 decibel increments, and you also have power buttons and linking buttons if you want to link the device to something else, which more on that in just a second. You also have active noise cancellation in 2 modes. So you just press that power button, you'll see the yellow indicator, you know it's enabled. Then within the DJI Mimo app, you have the ability to choose your noise cancellation strength. You have basic and strong being obviously better for larger noises. Within the app, you also have a bunch of other flexibility. So mono versus stereo, the ability to record a safety track, adding a low cut filter that takes out some of that low frequency humming we were talking about, for example. And then there's a clipping function that you can enable or disable, unlike what you can do on the Rode. With the DJI, you also have more options for use. By default, it comes with a USB-C attachment and a 3.5mm TRS cable to connect to a camera. But remember I said those Bluetooth buttons? Well, the DJI transmitter can also connect directly with the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro, the Action 4, and then the Pocket 3. You can even connect them to your phone's Bluetooth without needing a receiver. And then if your phone is a Lightning port, then you can also pick up this little Lightning adapter. That's separate, it's a couple bucks, but super nice to do that as well. But I think my favorite part of this setup is that everything fits within this charging case. The mics, the receiver, the phone adapters, the TRS cable, and even the windscreens all fit within this nice little case. So maybe you want to go with like just these 2 things as your vlog setup. Like this can go in a large pocket or a bag or just carry it around super easily. All in all, I think it's got just about everything you'd want in a budget wireless mic. I'll rate it a solid 4.75 out of 5 because we can't give it a perfect score, just knowing what we know about the things that exist with like the DJI Mic 2. Now the Hollyland Lark M2S is also incredibly interesting, mostly due to the unique design of the transmitters. There's sort of this tadpole shape that allows you to clip them to your shirt and hide the larger portion behind, so you only have the small unbranded microphone portion sticking out. It basically looks like a lapel mic rather than having like an ugly wireless mic stuck to your shirt. This is obviously the biggest differentiating factor between the 2 others, and I really do like the design, but I will say that it would be nice if there was still a magnet involved, like on the Rode and the DJI, because sometimes you don't want to go right on a shirt. Maybe you want to stick it to a car, or just you don't have like a good lapel to attach it to. While you don't have the flexibility there, you do still have flexibility with your device. There's actually 2 different receivers included. So there's one for your camera and then another for mobile. The Hollyland app is also pretty decent and feature rich. We get 2 noise canceling modes, 3 gain levels, stereo and mono recording, an auto off function, and don't worry if you have just a Lightning device because there is a Lightning adapter that's included. I'd say my only complaint about the Hollyland from a feature perspective is that the build quality is definitely a bit cheaper. It's like kind of a cheaper plasticky thing than the other 2. And then the other thing is that while there are things like windscreens and cables and adapters and things, none of those fit inside the charging case, meaning if you want to bring them along, you have to put them in this little carrying bag, which is just slightly overly cumbersome. Overall, I really do like the design and it has everything you need. I just wish it was a little bit more portable and versatile, so we'll give it 4.5 out of 5. All right, totaling up our scores, we have the DJI Mic Mini coming in at the tops with a score of 4.7, followed very closely by the Hollyland Lark M2S with a score of 4.4. As much as I like the compact design of the Rode, the limited feature set and the lack of versatility makes it a 3 out of 5. But again, all of them are great mics. It just all depends on your specific use case. So if you found this video helpful, or if I saved you some time or money from having to test these out yourself, I'd really appreciate it if you considered hitting subscribe. I make new videos like this every week, so I'll see you in the next one. Peace.